Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for coming out. I'm Tom Tempe, the Associate Publisher at Defense One. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Defense One's Cocktails and Conversation. Thanks for joining us here in Huntsville to have a few cocktails and discuss the future of global missile defense. Before we begin, we have a few brief announcements. Please silence your cell phone. But don't put them away. We want to have a lively discussion. I think up here we're going to have you can share your comments, questions, and thoughts at hashtag DEF1SMD. You can also follow us on @Defense1 or at GovExec events to hear more about the conversation. I'd like to recognize our underwriters for today's event, Raytheon. Our special thanks for their support of today's program. We look forward to hearing from them directly in our second panel discussion, so stick around. From Raytheon, I'd like to welcome Dr. Mitch Stevenson.
So first, Tom, and to you, the Defense One team, we appreciate your efforts here and giving us all an opportunity to engage in the conversations around something that's near and dear to all of our heart, and that's the context and the subject of missile defense. So I want to start by saying thank all of you. We are greatly impressed by everyone's interest in this event. Normally when we do these type of events, we see about half this number of people. So thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to engaging you both formally and informally as the rest of the evening progresses. I am glad to be home. This is my home, although I'm not based out of Huntsville. I am based out of Tucson, Arizona, but fundamentally Huntsville is near and dear to my heart. As many of you know, it is always good for me to be back home and able to sleep in my other house. And so I greatly appreciate this opportunity to be back amongst good folks in a good community. We appreciate each of you from the business community here, from our customer set, and many of the leaders that are associated with the subject that we're going to talk about today with respect to missile defense. So with that, again, I'll just say thanks. We're going to have some opportunity to engage in some questions, and I want to get to those quickly as possible, so I'll turn it back over to Tom, and he'll do some introductions. Again, thank you very much.
Great. Pleased to welcome Defense One's Global Business Editor, Marcus Weisgerber, Brigadier General William Cooley, Program Executive for Programs and Integration for the Missile Defense Agency, and James Johnson, Director of Warfare Center, U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command. Marcus.
All right, everybody, thank you. This is a great turnout. This is when we created Defense One 3 years ago. I've been there 2 years. We've had a lot of events. A lot of them are very foreign policy focused, and So a lot of our events are very foreign policy focused, very operational focused, focused on the wars. When I came to work for Defense One right about 2 years ago right now, they hired me to write more about business, more about budget, more about acquisition, more about you guys, the companies who are supporting the Pentagon. And one of the events I came to right before I came and joined Defense One was the Space and Missile Defense Symposium. I was working for Defense News at the time as the Pentagon correspondent, and I just thought that this was an amazing conference. Now, I'll admit, I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker. I came to Alabama with a little bit of apprehension. I've seen my cousin Vinny. I know what happens. But everybody's been great and really, really welcoming. So thank you for hosting us all today. As Tom mentioned, our two guests, long distinguished careers in missile defense. I won't even get into that, other than to say, Mr. Johnson over here, at Defense One, we say what we focus on is the future of defense. So Mr. Johnson, he's the director of the Future Warfare Center for SNDC, and so he's a quintessential Defense One guest. So thank you so much for Sorry to disappoint. So one other thing I just want to mention before we get into questions. We just launched a newsletter a couple weeks ago called the Global Business Brief. It kind of is a columny smart take, if you will, on just things happening in the defense business, budget acquisition, company world. I started writing this about a month ago, and you can sign up on our website, defense1.com. There's a little box in the top left corner with my picture, which is flattering maybe to have up there. But check it out. It's pretty neat. Give us your feedback. We'd love to have it. So we're going to start. We're going to talk to General Cooley right now. We're going to talk to Mr. Johnson right now about, we're going to start talking about GMD. And first, General Cooley, can you just give us a little bit of an update on what's going on up at Fort Greely with the additional 14 interceptors that will be coming in? Where are we right now, and where are we going in the next few months and years? And
Well, my turn on. First, let me just say thank you for hosting this event and asking us to come out. They assured me that this is a friendly crowd.
Maybe not.
If the PA system doesn't scare you all, no, this is a friendly crowd. I recognize lots of faces in the audience of really the folks who make this area happen. Our industry partners and across the industry and government to take on this extremely important mission that we have. So it's great to be here and have an opportunity. Thanks to Raytheon for hosting this, and I look forward to your comments here later, Dr. Stevenson. So with respect to GMD, I mean, this is, I like to think of it, it's certainly the top priority in my portfolio because it's about the homeland defense. And so as everybody knows, the goal that the Secretary of Defense set down in 2013 to get to 44 interceptors, going from 30 interceptors on up to 44 by the end of calendar year 2017 is what's been driving the program, and spending lots of time with our industry partners to make that happen. Right now we're on a very good path. We actually have schedule margin, which is the most important thing program managers have to getting there. But it's one of those things that we're still working through some qualification issues and have technical challenges as any program does. But right now, in terms of the exact number of, I believe we kind of keep those things close hold. So I'd rather not say, but we're on path to I believe during the director's testimony, we talked about being sort of halfway there at the end of this calendar year in terms of the delta. So getting 36 to 38 by the end of the calendar year, and then getting to 44 by 2017. So in terms of building up that capability, we're on path. In terms of the actual infrastructure modifications at Fort Greely, those things have gone exceedingly well. The mechanical, electrical building up there in Fort Greely was actually finished ahead of schedule, and so that's making great progress in terms of the silos that had to be refurbished. So all those things are on path, and good progress with respect to the testing that we completed this past January, and we're looking forward to another upcoming test to support the fielding and demonstrating the capability when we get the 44 in the ground.
James, the Army is going to operate those interceptors up there, I guess in the budget constrained era, the sequestration era, if you will. How's the Army looking in terms of the number of people, or having the people available to actually crew those additional silos up there?
Obviously, the defense of the homeland is one of the very top priorities of the Army, so we see no concerns about manning. We have the 100th Missile Defense Brigade that is in Colorado Springs, and then we have the 49th Missile Defense Battalion at Fort Greely. We have a small detachment at Vandenberg. Well, it says 300 people protecting 300 million people. So right now, from a manning standpoint, we don't see any concerns, and that is
General, can you talk about the latest, the missile defense test in January? There was a lot of back and forth, I guess, about the success of the test. I guess, one, how does MDA characterize that test? And two, what you learn from it? And three, where are we going? What's the next test going to look like?
So you asked the operative word, which is learn, because that's why you test, is so that you can learn from those tests. And so if everything goes right, that's terrific. You know, what you learned is you did a lot of things right. Now, you know, that doesn't mean that there's not other potential risks that are out there, but when things don't go right, you also learn in those events. So with respect to the test in January, it was a successful test, and we were able to conclusively prove out the thrusters, which was the goal of the test. That was the principal goal of the test. And so now that's not to say that, you know, there aren't other issues that crop up, but that's an opportunity to learn. And so with respect to, you know, the subsystem that we wanted to definitively prove out, we did that, which enabled us to move forward, to clarify that the advanced thrusters that we were testing were good to go. And so, as in any test of a complex system like this, you know, there's a reasonable likelihood that not everything's going to go perfectly. I'm not in a position to discuss that. This isn't the right forum to talk about, you know, some of the other things we discovered. We, as you know, have to be very careful and sensitive with respect to what you know, details of the system. But suffice it to say that we learned from this test, and we proved out exactly what we needed to prove out, which is that the thrusters were, you know, worked exactly as predicted with all the ground testing that we had done to ensure that we can go forward and move towards 44/17.
What does upcoming testing look like in terms of what you're going to try to prove out?
So the next test will be an intercept test of the CE2 Block 1 configuration on a C2 booster. And so that's going to be a big deal for us. The good news is that it's, you know, we do a lot of testing in MDA, so it's always a spiral development. So we have high confidence in you know, a very large portion, you know, large number of the systems and subsystems that are being tested out. But this is a new configuration that will perform flight tests. So it's you know, anytime it's an intercept test, it's a big deal. And so so we are paying very close attention with our industry partners to make sure that we are in have high confidence that we're going to be successful in that.
James, let's pivot back over to you. As I mentioned, you're the futurist of the panel. Just kind of when you think about the future of missile defense, what do you see?
Yeah, we I guess I'll just give you a long answer. We just recently briefed the senior Army leadership on the Army Air and Missile Defense strategy. The commander of SMDC has been tapped to be since he is the senior Army Air and Missile Defense officer in the Army, he is the lead integrator for air and missile defense for the Army. So that means pulling together the efforts of SMDC, PEO Missiles in Space, of Fire CEO, COE, and Army G357, the AAMDC. So there's a lot of players that he integrates. And when the Army Chief of Staff has a question, he goes to General Mann. So that question came recently: is what is the current and the midterm and the far term future for air and missile defense look like? So from a low tier perspective, the biggest thing on the plate is IBCS, which is I'm sure most of you in here know what that is, but it's basically any sensor, any shooter, and that's a big shift for the Army, as probably most of you are aware of. It is going to more of a battery construct versus a battalion construct, and that's going to ease the burden on our soldiers. It is going to make everything more effective as opposed to having a particular sensor matched with a particular shooter. So that's going on. We expect IBCS to have initial capability by 2018. I think the final by 2028. Another thing that's happening is integrating IBCS with C2BMC, which we think around 2020 that'll happen. So that's yet again going to integrate upper tier and lower tier. So still getting after that any sensor with any shooter. Now, from I guess a more philosophical standpoint of what does the future look like, the problem we've got now is the worldwide demand for missile defense is greater than the capacity. So, there's bad guys out there that are always adding capabilities and making more sophisticated ballistic missiles and other air threats, and so that is the demand is greater than the capacity. The other thing that we are looking closely at is the senior Army leadership, like the Army Chief and the Vice. They're looking at it from sort of a return on investment standpoint. You talk about a Patriot or a THAAD, and then you look at some of the air threats, like gyrocopters and various other relatively low-cost threats. They're saying, why are we launching, a very expensive missile at a relatively low-cost threat? So the terms they use are let's see if we can get on the correct side of the cost equation. What can we do to lower our cost per kill? So we're looking at technologies that will get after that. There's various things we're looking at, like high-energy lasers, like left of launch kinds of things. So there's quite a few things we're looking at.
Cruise missile defense is something that's been, I guess, in the spotlight for the last 2 years or so. I guess in light of JLENS right now, what's the vision for that? I know there was a lot of talk of proliferation of JLENS around the United States and protecting cities and other places, and the demand for it from the COCOMs, like you said, was very high. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, JLENS obviously had its funding pulled. I'm not necessarily convinced that's permanent. I think it certainly has some application for a lot of these threats that are difficult to see. But there's other things out there that are in the works that I can't talk about at all that can also do that. So you're right. Cruise missiles, UASs, ground threats, all of that are things we are looking at, and so you got to see the threat, and you got to be able to shoot it down. So we're looking at all of that.
General, one of the things you oversee is the U.S.-Israeli cooperation. I know you can't talk a lot about the details of a lot of those efforts, but what can the U.S. learn from Israel in terms of how it goes after missile defense, and how could it take that and apply it to programs here?
So no, that's a good question, but I think the answer is, it's really embedded in understanding the cooperation that we currently have. So in terms of the things that we can learn, we are very cognizant and provide oversight and technical assistance with our Israeli partners on all of their systems, the Iron Dome, David Sling, and Arrow. So from there's been language, congressional language to ensure that the U.S. is a part of that. When U.S. appropriated dollars are used to go fund that, we want to ensure that the U.S. industry is engaged. And so So as a result, that means we have to be involved and engaged with those discussions and understanding the programmatics, the details of the programmatics, and the technical approaches that they make. So we've learned a great deal from that interaction. I mean, it's a two-way street. I know that's not a, I don't have specifics to specific examples, but there's tight coupling between all of the programs that we're working on with Israel, as well as the testing.
I want to open the floor up for questions if there's anybody in the audience who has any questions. Really?
No, you're taking the wrong approach. Usually when I do an all-call, I say, okay, we're not leaving until we have at least 3 questions. So you're actually helping everybody out if you ask a question, okay? So 3 questions, that's the threshold, okay? I'm not sure what the objective is. Go ahead.
Well, I'll come to your rescue. Can you say a few words about the emerging hypersonic threat and defend against that? That's certainly an implication for the future missile defense.
You said future, so I'm going to point this way. Well, let me just say this. I'm very cognizant of the challenges that we have in that domain, and I can tell you that my boss is even more cognizant of the challenges, and I would be stunned if he doesn't specifically talk to that when he's here over the next couple of days. So my expectation is that you'll probably hear a little bit more about that. But just suffice it to say that we're very witting of some of the challenges that we face, and thinking hard as to how we could logically approach that. But let me turn it over to the futurist who actually has the real answer for you.
I'm not sure how much more I can add to it. Certainly we are reading the news just like you are. Some of our adversaries are making a lot of great strides in that arena. SMDC has been involved from a development standpoint in developing some capabilities, and we're involved in testing. So we're tracking it. Obviously we can't talk about much in this forum, but it is something that is a big deal as far as what you could do with one of those.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned ROI. What are your thoughts on centralized, high-cost, high-performance defense systems versus distributed, low-cost in say, like cruise vessels?
Yeah, what I was referring to really was trying to give our Army leadership a few more menu items. You don't want to kill a fly with a Patriot missile. That's sort of the analogy I would use. So we're trying to give more options and more scalable effects than just the very large missiles. So high energy lasers. That's I can talk about that. That's something we are working hard on because we see that as a potential solution to get after what the Army senior leadership is saying when they tell us to reduce the cost per kill. So SMDC has been working on a high energy laser demonstrator for a while. We not too long ago demonstrated a 10 kilowatt solution that was mounted on a HEMTT truck, so pretty large vehicle if you're a vehicle person. And we proved we could do beam control, and we could take out some levels of targets and prove the technology is working. We are continuing on that glide path. We expect by 2017, 2018 to demonstrate a 50 kilowatt laser. So now we're getting into a lot more militarily significant power output. We're also miniaturizing to fit onto an FMTV class vehicle. So again, if you're not a vehicle person now, we're going to roughly half the vehicle weight, roughly half of the payload carrying capability when you go to FMTV. Carrying that further, we're planning on roughly a 100 kilowatt capability by the early 20s, and the IFPC program is already programmed to integrate that capability onto the IFPC program sometime in the 20s.
What's the weight of a 10 kilowatt?
I couldn't say that. That's done out of our
10 of those targeting, you know, one missile. So it's again, centralized high power, or do we go distributed with numbers game that way?
You know, what I have seen is it's more fiber optics based and very modular in design, so I don't think it's a one-to-one relationship necessarily in weight to power with the technology that's been pursued. But still just finishing that thought, you know, if we can get it working, which it looks very promising right now your dollars per kill is in the dollars, not millions of dollars, because we're talking about batteries and generators and diesel fuel, and virtually an unlimited magazine, as far as the ability to lace targets. So that's just one example of some things we're looking at that we think can lower that cost. Another thing we're looking at is lift of launch. So possibly non-kinetic solutions like cyber directed energy, like high power microwaves, that type of thing. So there's different approaches we're considering that could possibly lower that cost per kill.
One more question. Who's got it?
Yes, sir.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Bill Killingsworth with Dease Research here in Huntsville, and General Cooley, I'm working closely with Norm Montano, who's the program director for EKV. And, you know, to support the 44x17, the last EKV will be delivered in just about a year from now. So what is life after DFC? Right? Is MDA looking at the transition? I mean, we've got hundreds of suppliers, very specialized, and there's some concern about lines going cold. I'm just wondering, what is MDA's thoughts in terms of transitioning?
Boy, that's a good question.
Answer it away.
It's a good question because it's something that we ask ourselves also, and we are thinking hard about that. I will tell you. As you can also appreciate, that's not something that, you know, until we have a path laid out, and in terms of, you know, getting into a procurement, we're not going to, you know, we will broadcast that when it's appropriate. However, your point is well taken, and so all I would say is that that we're certainly witting of where we are on the DSC contract as well as EKV. We have this program called RKV that we're in the process of getting, you know, through development such that we can get to a you know, doing some flight tests and build up some initial units and get to a production contract for RKV. So you know, that would be the first thought that comes to mind, is that there will be a kill vehicle program, you know, on the heels of this. Now, how smooth will that transition be? I can't precisely tell you. You know, but we're very witting of that, and I would say that we would like to get RKV moving as rapidly as possible so that it's an extremely smooth transition. Will we get there? I don't know, because we've got this thing called development that we've got to get through, and there's a lot of testing that we've got to make happen. So I look around the room, and there are a number of industry partners who are actively engaged in making sure that that happens. And so, since this is cocktails and conversations, when we break and you get a cocktail, you are welcome to ask any of them how rapidly they are supporting us to get RKV development done. So I don't know if that answers your question, but let me just say that I am very witting of the fact that the government actually doesn't build anything. We don't go into the government labs and build up stuff typically that gets fielded. We rely on our industry partners to go do that. And so this is an extremely important part of the defense industrial base that makes all this happen. And I think one of the reasons why MDA has special acquisition authorities and has continued to maintain those special acquisition authorities in spite of some who would prefer we not, is that that this is an important mission, and we have, to date, done what I think is a credible job in delivering capabilities rapidly for a very important mission, and that's Homeland Defense. And so, so we know the important role that our industry partners play, and we'll hopefully get the next generation of kill vehicles highly reliable as they are needed, and fielded as rapidly as possible.
And on that note, we're out of time. Please join me in thanking Mr. Johnson, General Cougar.